Woohoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday. This time we truly are live. No previous recording today. We're live in the flesh where anything can go wrong, but it won't because we're so well tested. So I have my buddy Superman in the co-pilot seat today. Nerves of steel, man of steel, whatever we want to call it. So, Jeff, before I ask you to introduce yourself, I'm going to go ahead and pop up our banner so people know what we're talking about and get their seat, get their popcorn ready. We're going to talk about be effective on LinkedIn, putting your profile to work for your book. So I love this. I love this topic. So before we get stuck in, can you please go ahead and tell people who you are and what you do?
Sure. The Reader's Digest on this is my network calls me, I am Jeff Young, the LinkedIn guru. Okay. If you look guru up in the dictionary, you see the word teacher, which is exactly why I've got the last son of Krypton behind me, because I am also introducing myself many, many times by saying, hi, I'm a teacher. Okay, fine. I'll do it again. What's your superpower? I still got the gift of you recording that and giving that to me. So anyway, now people who are listening to the podcast won't understand what we're talking about. But anyway, I just ripped off my shirt and showed my big red S. Say S. So anyway,
awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So we are talking about being effective on LinkedIn, and we're going to talk specifically about your LinkedIn profile. So this is not about posting videos and all that other sort of stuff. This is, think of your profile as the foundation piece of LinkedIn. It's kind of like your home page, so to speak. And this is the thing where, I've had other guests on the show that we've talked about the fact that if people go to your LinkedIn profile, do they even know you're an author? And there's actually, this is kind of why Jeff and I decided to do this live today, is that there's actually many different places. And so if you think of your profile as like a tree, there's, the trunk, but then there's all these different leaves. And so these are all the places that you and I were going to compare notes today of like, where can we sneak in that book? So what can we do? So why don't you kick it off, Jeff, with maybe some of your favorite places? And I have a couple of questions that I might even ask you about, should we or shouldn't we?
Okay. Well, I guess they don't call this social media for nothing. So the graphics are kind of where I think you really get a chance to tell the story in pictures. Okay, but more than anything else, I mean, literally, we're talking about specifically books today. But almost every single one of the places that I'll mention or that we'll talk about, you could link to anything that you want. Could be anything. Could be your YouTube channel, could be, et cetera. So it's always possible to do that. But my favorites, if you will, are the ones up at the top. Okay. And the very, very first one is the biggest graphic that you get to use on your LinkedIn profile. It is your profile background photo / banner. I always call it banner. I really don't like background photo. I don't know why. I just don't like the connotation of background photo, but I call it a banner, right? And the point being is that the good news is it's a big graphic, okay? So I compared mine to yours, for example. Yeah, I've got it right after, it didn't happen until a little bit afterwards, but right after I announced my book back in September, I put a picture of my book up there, okay? Now, the good news with the banner is that it's a graphic. It's easy to show pictures. I've got a picture of a book. You, on the other hand, have a picture of 5 books because you've written 5 books. Hey, well, why not? Okay. Oh, and by the way, if you really want to pay LinkedIn some money, you could actually use the rotating banner, which I'm not a big fan of, but you could actually use the rotating banner to show a different connotation and a different book, if you will, and have graphics and text about a different book on each one of those, because you can have up to 5 different banners. Okay, again, I'm not a big fan of that. However, with my one, the drawback to me on the background photo and banner is the fact that it's just a picture. you have to use, you can use a picture of your book. Well, there's even a way around that as well, because there's this thing called a QR code.
Mm.
Make a link out of your book, or you can make a link out of something else. You can put that QR code on your banner, and therefore anybody who comes to you who has a camera on their phone then can scan that QR code and go to wherever that sends them as well. So you can send somebody to your book from your background banner if you really wanted to.
Brilliant. I never thought of the idea of having the QR code for your book on your banner. What a great idea. Because it's like having the link would be ridiculous. It's just like, it's not clickable, and it's too long. It's too long to type in. So, but the QR code, wow, that's brilliant. I love that. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. And I also too, because I'm on the free version, I don't have the scrolling banner, but I know a lot of authors who are on premium. And you know what? If you're paying for it, put that, to work for you, because I know so many people that are like, well, I don't really know what to do with it. So it's like, yes, if you've written 3 books, put each book on its own thing. You could probably even put a book and then maybe a little blurb about it, like, just a couple of words or something. Exactly. So it's like, best LinkedIn guide or, whatever, because some people are word people. They like to read words. Other people pick up images because they're visual people. So appeal to both of them.
Well, drop a brief couple of quotes or something like that from some of your reviews or something like that, right? And oh, by the way, one of my big things about the background, the scrolling banner, is that you don't really get to control how fast it scrolls. So I always get motion sickness when I'm watching somebody scrolling banner, but there is a way around that as well. Because if you just click on the banner yourself, it stops the scrolling, and then you can go through them one at a time. So you get to look at any of them, so if you know how, a person can stop the banner and then take a look at each one of them and spend as long as they want to on each one. But other than that, if it's just coming up, it's going to go boink, 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 boink. And it's really too fast for me. So anyway.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of them either. So if I was an author sitting there going, maybe I'll try premium for the banner, go look at some first and see if you really like it. And Jeff and I are always about free. It's just like utilize all the free parts of LinkedIn before you go down that premium route, because it's expensive. It's expensive.
Yes, absolutely.
So banner is one. Next up, above the fold, because it's like a web page. Yep. So in internet speak or web speak, we always talk about things above the fold, which means as soon as you go to somebody's profile, there's certain things that you see without even having to scroll. So that to me is top of fold. So the banner is one. What would you say is next?
Well, if you really, really, really were interested in making sure that you put your book front and center, your actual photo could be used as well. Your profile photo could actually. Well, I saw somebody's banner the other day who actually had themselves, doing a selfie with their book, holding it up. Well, what's the point of, you could do the very same thing in your profile photo as well, if you really wanted somebody to see your book. So that's one way that you could do it that way as well. I probably won't go there because the book is not, and you would have to have your face surrounded by 5 books.
I'd have to be juggling them or something. That would be juggling my books.
And that might not work for you, you as well. But yeah, even the profile, any graphic, any picture is a possibility of a place where you could put your book and at least show people that, I am an author. I mean, people need to know this, right?
Yes. Now, I actually saw this, and I'd like your comment on this. I saw somebody put their book as their photo, and I don't know if I would agree with that. What are your thoughts?
Again, the profile photo is supposed to be of you so that people can recognize when they want to network with you, right? So no, I would not substitute I thought about that earlier as well. I would not substitute my book for it, except maybe on a very, very short temporary basis, perhaps, but not very long at all. I think you really need to have your smiling face up there, and honestly, if you're going to keep your brand, Okay, even though my book has a red cape on it and all that kind of stuff, if you're going to keep your brand, when you go to my LinkedIn profile, you're going to see something that looks really similar to this as my
Right.
profile photo, right?
Right. Right.
So
Right. Okay. That's good. Okay.
makes
So
sense.
banner, which I know it's a background, but we'll call it a banner.
Yeah.
Banner, possibly photo with a
Yep.
little sneak up of your book. So that's kind of cool.
Yep.
How about headline? Putting your book in your headline.
Well, there's one actually that we might want to talk a little bit even before your headline. Okay.
Okay.
Because because I think it. Oh, I'm sorry. No, no. Let's
The
talk about
length.
headline first. Yeah, let's
The
talk about headline first.
okay.
Yes, you can put your book in your headline, or at least the fact that you're an author, or in your case, as a publisher. And I've actually seen somebody's headline start off with best-selling author. Okay. As a matter of fact, I even saw earlier today, as I was doing a little bit of research, I saw somebody with their name and best-selling author in their
Mm,
name field as well.
that's
Eh,
actually,
I
isn't
don't think
that
it's
sort
probably
of
going to hurt
against,
them much, but what do you think?
but
Well, I'm sorry.
it is against LinkedIn's terms of service to
Correct.
put anything besides your name and maybe credentials if you've got all
Your
those PhD
degrees
and
and
da 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 da.
certification.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, LinkedIn is lenient with that. So I doubt they're probably going to get in trouble for it, but they wanted them to know. So the neat thing about it again, though, is that now in your headline, which is what we're talking about right now, you don't have a lot of room. So I'm not putting anything about my book or even the word author in my headline because that's not my focus. My focus has to
Right.
be, and you only get 220 characters.
Right.
And oh, by the way, yeah, you could put a link to your book in your headline, but it won't come up as
Mm.
clickable either.
Right.
And
Right.
it's another one of those places where, yeah, you could be a link, but it's not clickable. So a little bit more about your story and maybe author or something along those lines. Yeah, I think that's a great place because that little, especially since again, your photo, your headline, okay, and your name are the three things that follow you everywhere on LinkedIn. So I looked at your
Mm.
headline the other day in a comment as well, and I'm going, oh yeah, you don't get all 220 characters, but you get at least the first 40. So yes, it does say, it says most of what you say, which is 5 times author, business book, and marketing coach. Okay. And even starts to show the host of the Easy Peasy podcast. So, yeah, you get most of that there.
I like that. And so then the suggestion is, since it does follow you around on LinkedIn, but is truncated because you don't see the whole thing, front load it. So if
Exactly.
you're going to put that you're an author, don't stick it at the end, stick it at the front. So with me, that's the very first thing I have. And I did put best-selling author because not every single book was a bestseller. Plus also too, bestseller for like how long? It's
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah,
for one day. I don't
yeah.
know. I didn't feel good to me to do that. So, but 5x, 5 times best, 5 times author, that was kind of easy
Yep.
peasy. And I front loaded that, put it right at the
Well,
front.
and believe me, there aren't that many of those people that are going to do that out there. That's impressive. Okay, 5 times author. Yeah, you're getting into some rarefied air there. Okay, so that's why I definitely think it's a great place for you to put it.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on pronouns?
You could do anything. I see. I actually hedge the bet on my pronouns as well because I don't do he, she, etc. I do something that I wanted people to understand from my brand standpoint, and my pronoun says respect to all.
Mm,
So again, it would be another place that would be a little bitty place that you could put something. But,
yeah.
but again, I don't have a problem with it being related to pronouns because I want people to understand from a DEI standpoint, I treat everyone with respect.
Right.
I personally would have a problem with putting anything about my book in the pronouns.
Me too. It feels like an inappropriate place. So it's kind of like either use it as it's intended or something that sort of that's respectful of it. So it
Exactly.
seems like a weird place to actually, put a sales message. but I've actually seen people do it with all sorts of things.
Yep.
I myself, I would probably, well, I don't, but I probably would recommend, nah, that's probably not a good one.
Yeah.
So, okay, I know this is going away, but the link, maybe it's gone away. The active link, maybe that'll come back as a, you know, business feature, premium feature.
Well, obviously with premium, okay, here's one of those, the other things, you know, everything we've been talking about is premium unless we say otherwise. So with premium, you actually get a button. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So you can handle your own button, and here's a link to my book, okay, and give it a give it what you want to say there, right? With the website that is a part of the free version in the intro section of LinkedIn, yes, I have heard it's going away as well. For anyone who has it already, supposedly it will stay for a while. Yeah, well, so did Profile Story, okay, you know, so did Cover Story for a short while. Profile Videos stayed for a little while. Nah, I don't know. It'll probably disappear, but until it does, I'm definitely going to use mine, okay, to use it as a link. Now, in your case, I noticed that in your case, it's a great link because it's a link to your author page on Amazon.
Yep.
Perfect. Because now you got all 5 of your books spelled out for everybody so that they can see it with one link. And it's, again, something way above the fold. So it's going to be something that people can see. Now, in my case, again, I'm not, I really wanted to use that particular link for something else. So mine happened to be a link to my YouTube channel. Okay. Okay, because I wanted mine, you know, being a teacher, I wanted some place for people to have a link to go for my how-to videos, which is why that's what it is on mine. But I think it's a perfect use of yours, especially from the standpoint, you know, the way you set it up to go to your Amazon author page.
Yes, and in all fairness too, you could put something about your book in your YouTube channel so that when they went there, they'd get it anyway. So, you know,
I could lead with that. Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Well,
And
and don't get me wrong. No, there is stuff like that out there. Okay, because all the lives that I've done and this live with you will be out there as well. So that live would be about my book, right? Yeah, in a way, anyway. So that works perfect.
That's good. Okay, so going down, still above the fold, I think services.
Well, above services is still the about section too.
Oh, okay. Yep.
About sections first, then services, if I'm not mistaken, since we can't reorder our, about section, again, is a part of your story. I love what you've done in your about section because you've actually told your story about how you switched over from doing LinkedIn Lives about LinkedIn to doing LinkedIn Lives about how you can utilize, you know, your book and how you can publish your book and, you know, et cetera. So that's a perfect place to put that for you as well. Now, here again, we've been talking a lot about links. You have to understand where the links work and where they don't work, though, because the links don't work, again, as a clickable link in your about section. Okay, there is a link you can put out there, but people would have to actually copy it and paste it to actually go to the link. So it's a little bit of extra work. But anyway.
Yep. No, that absolutely makes sense. Okay, but you can talk about your book and, you know, maybe you want to talk about the benefits of what your book does for people. So it's nice because you can not only mention your book and say it's available, you know, like I always if you can't do a link, say the platform. You know, it's available on Amazon or it's available in bookstores, you know, whatever is your place that you're distributing your book, if it's on your website, whatever. But then, you know, kind of highlight, say this book is excellent. It's a beginner guide for blah, 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 you know, and then that way people, oh, I better check this out as opposed to just saying what the book is. So you got a lot of space there.
Yep. You want to talk about services before we do comments or before? All right.
Yes. Yeah. Let's do services.
Okay. Well, services is the next one. And again, services is a good one. You really have to actually add this as it's actually one of the core, you know, when you do an add a profile sections, it's actually in the core set of sections. So adding the services is great. You did a great job of putting writing and publishing and those kind of things out there as services. Now, those aren't my services, again, see, because I've got other related services. However, when you actually get through and go to the services page, there is the ability, even for free now, again, still, to put graphics out there And the very first graphic on my services page is, guess what? A
Your
picture of
book.
my book. Absolutely. Now, the interesting thing is that you got one out there too. I think I've got a picture of all 5 of your
All
books.
5. All 5.
But I did notice one thing. Okay, before we go to comments, I want to make sure that you understood that there. By the way, you might want to double check this, because that graphic, if you put a graphic up there, there's also the ability to put a URL behind the graphic.
Oh, make
So
it
when I
clickable,
open
and
up
I missed
yours,
that.
it shows me the picture of your 5 books. But that very same graphic could be used to take them to your Amazon author page again, right? Another link is not a bad thing. Another link could be a good thing. Okay, so
I
mine
like
actually is a
that.
link to take them directly to my book. But
I like that. I like that. Okay, homework. I got to go back and fix that. So that's good to know. Okay, so let's hop over to the comments, and then we'll come back and start talking about the rest of the page. The rest of
yeah,
the
there's
page. Okay.
more. But
All
wait, there's
right.
more.
So we got you with us. So you're on YouTube.
Surprise!
Just always telling us that we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Okay, so we got Kevin D. Turner. We saw him in the lobby waiting to get in. Yay. Thank you for being here today, Kevin. We always love you. Here's Kathy York. She says she'll be here. She'll be here. Yay. Thank you, Kathy. We got Leslie here.
Leslie.
Yay. Lovely to see. Hi, Jillian and Jeff. Lovely to see. Who is another author is Leslie. Kathy York, teaching is my superpower too. So we have Superman friends in the house today. By the way, another version of Superman is coming out soon. I just saw the trailer. So
that's right.
Whole other topic. So Leslie says, Jeff, I have the QR code for mine in my comments. So in the comments, maybe she put them in the comments of the live. So
quite possibly, yeah, because obviously you're not in here, not you
right.
Get graphics in here, but she could have actually attached a graphic to it in the comments for the actual live.
Exactly, exactly. And you could create a GIF or GIF if you're Jeff. You could create a GIF or GIF that is, your picture of your book, and then like a QR code to like check out my book on Amazon. And there's, and it could be a graphic, and you could upload that to comments and stuff. So, just anything goes. It's interesting. Kevin says QR code for the win. QR codes for the win. They just do amazing things. And Kevin always uses, I forget which one he uses. He uses some monkey tool. I think it's monkeys.
QR code monkey. Yeah.
QR code monkey, where you can actually have a graphic in your QR code. So you could do a QR code and put a picture of your book.
I think I learned that from Kevin.
Yeah, that's something I haven't done. So, okay. Two bits of homework for me. So Leslie says, my goodness, you're a wealth of knowledge. Yes, you are, Jeff. You are always a wealth of knowledge. That's why we got you on here today. So our lovely friend Tina is here. She says, this can be interesting for your English version, Carl. So I guess she's talking to Carl, who was a guest earlier today. So yes. And Leslie says, Jillian and Jeff, this is an amazing conversation. Thank you both. Yay. We're glad you like it. Dr. Gargie's here. And she says, very helpful advice. Amazing conversation. Yay. We've got Hendy. Awesome, Jeff. Awesome.
Thank you.
We have, I'm going to mess it up, Suala. Thanks, guys. Got a dash, but she can come back and listen and watch the replay. We have the lovely Marcia. We haven't seen her for a while, so lovely to see her joining us today. Diane Marie, question: is there a feature that allows an audio clip of the book? Well, that's a good one, Jeff. What do you have to say about that?
Well, not audio by itself, but obviously we've been talking about video. So if you want to video yourself reading a small portion of your book, absolutely, you could drop a video out there in any of the places where the media can apply. So yes, that would be a great idea, especially if you've got a really, really good quote from your book, that you might want to use. It would be useful to do, but not audio only by itself. Okay.
What about if you use the pronunciation feature?
Well,
it's short.
You only get 10 seconds, but yeah, you only get 10 seconds, but you could say, hi, I'm a new author of, and pretty much finish off the title of your book in 10 seconds at least, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, but not an audio. When I heard audio, when I saw audio clip, I thought maybe, of a chapter or a paragraph or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah. And something like an audio clip of your book is probably better served as doing like an audiogram, which is a great kind of
yeah,
video post you can do, where you could have a picture of your book and then you could just have, the audio, use the sound waves so people know that you're talking, and
yeah,
then caption caption it so that
yeah,
we see the
yeah,
subtitles. And that's a really good way that you can have snippets of your book out there. So
yeah.
that's what I'd recommend. And then you can, well, we'll talk about the
No, but that makes
featured
sense.
section in a minute, but it
Yeah.
could all go together. So anyways, great question. So
Melanie, it's my neighbor from
Milani,
Indiana.
she says great stuff. Or yeah, he, I don't know. Great stuff. Kathy says, Jeff, where do we add services on our profile? Good question.
Click the add profile section, and in the core section, you should see services as an option. And that will start through the process, because it'll take you more than a little while, because there's a lot of blanks to fill in and a lot of things that you can add on to later. So you could get the basics done in one quick session. But
I
yeah,
love that.
add a profile section, and its services is underneath there.
Awesome. Awesome. And Leslie says, Jillian, I have the graphic of my book included in my QR code for the book. So that's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
she's ahead of the game. She's ahead of the game. So Jeff, I mentioned the next one that I love to use, which
Yes.
is the featured section.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Well, obviously that's a good one as well, because again, this is the featured section is all about media, and it's all about links. Okay. So for the longest time, in my case, my featured section, the very first thing in my featured section was a link to my newsletter with the advice to, of course, subscribe. Okay. Well, it's still there, but since September, it got supplanted, and it's now second. Okay. Because the very first thing is a link to my book on Amazon. That's the very first thing in my featured section. Now, and by the way, I think I learned this little trick from you. Okay. Exactly. When you add a link to your URL as far as Amazon is concerned for your book, or wherever you want to link to your book, the thing that you should do in the featured section, if you want it to go directly without being a two-step process, is don't enter a description. It is a direct click, bam, you're there. Otherwise, if you click and there's a description, it comes up with a description, then with a view button that they have to click twice. So why make somebody click twice when you can take them there with just one click? Okay.
Yep.
So,
that was gold. I don't
definitely
even
learned that
know
one
how
from
I
you.
found that.
Yeah.
It was just like, wow, that's the best kept secret on LinkedIn.
Yep.
It's like if you tuned in today and you just learned that one secret, you'd be like, oh, okay, I'm going to make some changes. So that's good. So we can have links, so for your featured section, you can have links, external links, you can have images, you can save a post. So if you've done, maybe you did why did I write this book? I've done that. And I've done videos. You can feature those in your featured section. It's like your whole featured section could be nothing but your book, and just literally have use every format, image, link, video, newsletter, whatever.
Documents. Yeah.
Yes.
It just never ceases to. And the featured section is another one of those sections that I just don't understand why people haven't picked up on this and started to use it as much, because there's still a lot of people out there with a featured section, right? The first four things in my featured section this morning are the link to my book, the link to my newsletter, the post that I did about this live, okay, and then this live, because I've got a link to this live as well as the fourth thing out there that will be there forever and ever and ever, okay, because I'll just move it, okay? The neat thing about these is they're switchable. You can bring something up to the front, you can move it down to the bottom. Every single one of the lives that you and I have done, I've lost count of how many of them there are now, okay? Jillian, is in my featured section. So if anybody wants to go back and watch us in a previous life, 2 years ago at least, or 3 years ago, okay, they can find that in my featured section. But the stuff that I want featured, if you will, is up there in the first 4 or 5, because of the fact that the first 4 or 5 is all you're going to see unless you click the next button. Yeah, right.
Right. Oh, it's brilliant. It's
Well,
brilliant.
oh yeah.
So featured section is awesome. Take advantage of all the things that you've posted, and they don't even have to be posts. They can be external links, pictures, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So then what about your experience section?
Yes, we can't. We really should mention the experience section, because obviously adding an experience role or even in a separate experience, listing, okay, that puts you as an author out there is great as well, because then you get to tell them what you did, how you did the author. Mine's out there, yours is out there. As a matter of fact, you've got 4 different ones, if I'm not mistaken, one for each 5 different ones for each book, of course. I missed it. Okay, I'm sorry. So there's 5, one for each different book. Okay. And the coolest part about something underneath an experience section is that you can also add media. So I've got 24 different medias of all the people who took selfies with my book, gave me a review, or did a post of my book. All of that stuff is in my experience section under that heading of author of Be Effective on LinkedIn. Okay. It's amazing.
I love that.
What you can do. Yep. And you've done it too. You've got 3 or 4 different pieces of media for every single one of your listings.
Yep. So we are almost at the end of our live. We've gone a little bit over, but I just wanted to quickly pop in 2 others and just get your thoughts. Publications and also awards. So those are 2 other areas that authors could take advantage of. Awards, I would personally say, for if, I wouldn't clunk it up with like, best-selling Amazon author for a day. I wouldn't put that award. But maybe if you've actually, like you won the selfie award, in England or something, and your book was nominated and you won a prize, that's something that really should be taken care of. And then publications. So what are your thoughts on publications?
Well, publications is extremely important as well, because again, it's another one of those places that's a 1-button link, click, and you're there to the publication. So I've used it for publications and newsletters. I've used it for publications of magazine articles. And of course, the very last one that I put out there is a publication, of course, from last September of my book. Of course, it really should be that way. And I can't remember if you separated yours or not. I think you did, didn't you? Yeah, you separated all of yours as well. So you have a different listing for each single one of them. If anybody actually took the time to look at all this kind of stuff, it is just a huge amount of encyclopedia information of all the stuff that a person has actually accomplished. Okay, and especially from the standpoint of being an author. We haven't even talked about skills. You could put skills that are related to authorship in skills, or publishing, which you actually have done. Put publishing skills in the skills section, right? There's no links to your book, but at least it'll help get you found as a author or a publisher. Why not? We could go on and on and on. We're never going to get all through all. Pretty much, if you can come up with a way to spin it and a way of getting a link to it, I would highly recommend possibly trying it to see if it can help you promote your book, because there's so many different places you can do that.
I love it. So we have now gone over time. So we'll go ahead and end here. Is there any final words of wisdom you want to leave us with before we say goodbye today, Jeff?
Well, I would say that if you get the time to actually delve in and you want to look at someone as an author, then take the time to actually delve deeper into it. Look at the media that they've got out there. Look at please. I mean, I have no idea. I put all this stuff out there to help people. Okay, but I have no idea. LinkedIn won't give me any statistics about how many times actually somebody clicks on the link to my book. Okay, but please go check it out. That's my advice. Go check out Jillian's profile. Go check out my profile. You'll find a wealth of information about our book. Okay, but you'll also find a wealth of information. Okay, about how you might be able to do it better for yourself as far as doing your book as well.
Lovely. Well, thank you for being here today, Jeff, and sharing so much great advice. I've got my homework cut out for me, and I hope that everybody else who's tuned in and listening, that they're going to sit and go, I got to go get busy. I've got stuff to do. So thank you so much for being here. And to everybody who's out there listening, I hope that you enjoyed today's show, and we'll see you all next week. Okay.
My pleasure.
Bye, everybody.
Namaste.